ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Who told you success takes a lifetime? Who told you you're not smart enough, rich enough, bold enough, good enough? See, you weren't born doubting yourself. That was learned. That was programming. And here's the truth that will set you free. If you can be programmed for failure, you can be reprogrammed for success. And that's what we're doing for the next 21 days. That's right. We're going to brainwash you. Why? Because your brain is already washed, just not in the right soap. The world's been scrubbing your mind with fear, limitation, and lack. But now we're rinsing all that out and soaking in power, purpose, and prosperity. Most people go through life never realizing that the greatest battle they'll ever fight is the one happening between their ears. Thoughts, beliefs, doubts, fears. These aren't just ideas. They're programs. And if your mind is the operating system of your life, you better believe the code it's running matters. The truth is, you can't pour success into a mind full of limiting beliefs. That's like trying to plant a garden in toxic soil. Before success can grow, the garbage has to go. Detoxing your mind means identifying the lies you've accepted as truth. Somewhere along the way, someone told you that you weren't good enough, smart enough, qualified enough. Maybe it was a parent, a teacher, a boss, or maybe it was your own voice echoing your failures louder than your victories. And those beliefs settled in. They didn't just show up for a day and leave. They built a home. They became the default setting. Now when opportunity shows up, you hesitate. When vision comes, you doubt. Why? Because your mind's been conditioned to play it safe, play it small, and avoid pain at all costs. That's why detox is step one. You cannot build a new life with old thinking. You can't become who you're called to be while still clinging to who they told you you were. The first part of transformation is confrontation. You've got to confront every limiting belief that's been running your life. That means asking yourself hard questions. Why do I believe I can't succeed? Who told me my background disqualifies me? Why do I shrink in the face of challenge? Most of the time, you'll discover those beliefs aren't rooted in truth. They're rooted in trauma, in past disappointments, in fear. So how do you detox your mind? You start by catching the lie the moment it shows up. You don't entertain it, argue with it, or try to work around it. You reject it. The thought says, you failed too many times. You respond, failure is not final, and I've learned from every loss. The thought says, you're not ready. You respond, I'm being prepared even now, and what I lack in experience, I make up for in purpose. This is spiritual warfare at the mental level. You're not just thinking differently, you're fighting for your future. And understand, this isn't a one-time decision. Detox is a daily discipline. Just like your body needs to be cleansed of toxins regularly, your mind needs a constant renewal. You don't eat one healthy meal and expect to be in shape for life. You don't pray one time and expect every battle to be over. In the same way, you can't do a quick mindset shift and expect lifelong change. You have to wake up every day and choose truth over lies, purpose over fear, action over excuses. What makes this powerful is that once you remove the junk, space opens up. Space for clarity, vision, and purpose. Some people are so filled with negativity, anxiety, and false beliefs that there's no room for anything new. They want success, but they're mentally crowded. They want peace, but they're mentally polluted. The detox creates the space you need to hear divine direction, to see opportunities that were always there, but previously blocked by doubt. The clearer your mind, the sharper your vision. The cleaner your internal environment, the greater your external effectiveness. This mental detox isn't about being positive all the time. It's about being honest and intentional. It's not pretending everything is okay. It's acknowledging what's been broken and making a decision to stop living by default and start living by design. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. It sets the temperature for what you believe you can do, have, and become. Most people try to change their lives by adjusting behavior, setting goals, or creating vision boards, but none of that sticks if it's not backed by a shift in identity. If deep down you still see yourself as broke, unworthy, or average, then no matter what you do, your life will snap back to match that inner picture. It's not your circumstances holding you back, it's the story you tell yourself about who you are. Reprogramming your identity starts with realizing that your current self-meme was formed by repetition. You didn't come into this world doubting your value. You learned it. Somewhere in your journey, patterns of failure, rejection, or criticism began to paint a picture of who you are, and over time, you believed it. You heard, "You're not leadership material," enough times, and now you avoid stepping up. You failed a few times, and now you label yourself as someone who just never finishes. But identity is not truth, it's programming. And if you were programmed once, you can be reprogrammed again. This is not just about thinking better thoughts, it's about becoming someone new. It's about upgrading your identity to match your destiny. That means speaking about yourself in alignment with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. You can't keep calling yourself lazy and expect to become disciplined. You can't keep repeating, "I'm not good with money," and expect to build wealth. Words are seeds, and when you speak them with belief, they start to grow roots in your soul. The power lies in consistent, intentional declaration. You must speak your new identity daily until your mind accepts it as truth. If you say, "I'm a leader," long enough, your brain will start scanning your life for evidence to support that. You'll show up differently. You'll make choices that align with leadership, not because you forced yourself to behave, but because you redefined who you are. That's the real work. Not managing your actions, but managing your alignment with your new self. Identity reprogramming also requires you to forgive your old self. So many people stay stuck, not because they lack potential, but because they're ashamed of their past. They wear their mistakes like a name tag. But what you did is not who you are. You must separate performance from identity. You might have failed in business, but that doesn't make you a failure. You might have made poor choices, but that doesn't make you broken. Reprogramming your identity means choosing to define yourself not by your past actions, but by your future assignment. It also means surrounding yourself with environments and people that reflect the identity you're stepping into. If you're becoming a champion, you can't spend your time around people who celebrate mediocrity. If you're becoming wealthy, you can't take advice from people who resent success. Your environment is either reinforcing your old programming or supporting your new one. Choose carefully. Every conversation, every piece of content you consume, every thought you entertain, it's either building the new you or rebuilding the old one. The mind believes what it sees and what it hears most often. So give it new evidence. Get in rooms that stretch you. Set goals that scare you a little. Do things that contradict the old version of you. Because every time you act in alignment with your upgraded identity, you strengthen the neural pathways that support it. Eventually, the new you becomes automatic. You don't have to try to believe you are the belief. That's when the inner shift becomes an outer reality. Words are not just sounds, they are spiritual triggers. When you speak, you activate something: belief, action, identity. Speaking power daily isn't about hype or fake positivity. It's about aligning your mouth with your mission. Most people use their words to describe their life instead of designing it. They say what they see, not realizing that what they say shapes what they will see next. If all you speak is lack, fear, and struggle, don't be surprised when your life mirrors it. You're creating your reality in real time with every sentence that comes out of your mouth. What you say reveals what you believe, but it also reinforces what you believe. Every time you say, "I can't," you're reinforcing your own ceiling. Every time you say, "I always mess this up," you're building a stronger identity around failure. Words are not just reflections, they are declarations. And the most powerful declarations are the ones you make when your situation contradicts them. That's where transformation begins. Anyone can speak faith when the money's flowing and doors are opening. But when the bills are stacked, when rejection hits, when you're walking through the valley and you still say, "I'm favored, I'm chosen, I'm equipped," you're not just speaking, you're sowing. And what you sow with your mouth, you'll harvest in your life. Most people underestimate the compound power of consistent declarations. They want immediate results, but speaking power isn't about quick wins. It's about long-term programming. Just like you don't get strong from one workout, you don't get transformed from one affirmation. It's the daily repetition that rewires your belief system. Your mind starts to believe what it hears most. So if your self-talk is constantly negative, sarcastic, or self-sabotaging, your subconscious will take it as true. But if every day, without fail, You're speaking life over your goals, your identity, your future. Your mind has no choice but to adapt. Speaking power daily is also about creating alignment. There's power in agreement. When your thoughts, your words, and your actions all say the same thing, you become unstoppable. But if you think success, yet speak failure, there's a disconnect. If you dream big but speak small, there's a gap. Your words have to walk in agreement with your vision. They have to affirm where you've been. That means cutting out phrases like, I'm just trying to get by, or with my luck, nothing ever works. That's not harmless talk. That's planting weeds in your own garden. This kind of intentional speech requires awareness. You have to become the gatekeeper of your mouth. That means catching yourself in the moment. When you say something out of fear, stop and replace it. When you hear yourself limiting your own potential, pause and speak the opposite. It's not denial, it's design. You're not ignoring facts, you're shaping your future by faith. And the more you do this, the more natural it becomes. What used to be forced becomes your new normal. What used to sound like a stretch becomes your standard language. Your words also impact others. When you speak power, you not only build yourself, you elevate the room. You shift the atmosphere. That's why powerful people speak with intention. They don't waste words. They don't speak fear just to relate. They speak truth that transforms, and the people around them start to rise as well. That's leadership. That's impact. But it starts with mastering your own mouth. Speaking power isn't just a practice, it's a posture. It's a decision to only use your words for building, never breaking, for declaring, never doubting, for designing the future you were born to live. Success doesn't begin with what you do, it begins with how you think. Your mindset is the root and your results are just the fruit. A renewed mindset is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process, a daily decision to see life, business, and purpose through a new lens. Most people chase success in the physical, working harder, hustling longer, grinding every day. But if the mind is still broken, the progress will always collapse under the weight of an old belief system. Until the mindset shifts, the success won't stick. You can't attract what you don't believe you deserve. You can't walk into rooms you're mentally disqualified from. That's why the key to transformation isn't just doing more, it's becoming more. And becoming starts with thinking. When your mind is filled with fear, lack, and doubt, every opportunity feels like a threat. Every idea feels too big. Every door looks like a wall. But when the mind is renewed, when it's washed clean of old programs and filled with new truth, possibilities start to show up everywhere. You stop seeing limits and you start seeing lanes. A renewed mindset also redefines how you interpret life. When something goes wrong, the old mind says, I knew it, nothing ever works out for me. But a renewed mind says, this is a setup for something greater. This is feedback, not failure. The difference between people who grow and people who quit isn't what happens to them, it's what they think about what happens to them. A renewed mind turns adversity into advantage. It sees the lesson in the loss and the message in the mess. That's not just mental toughness, that's spiritual clarity. Many people live in cycles because their minds are stuck in loops. They keep recreating the same relationships, the same income ceilings, the same frustrations, not because life refuses to change, but because their minds refuse to. They've memorized survival so well that success feels foreign. So even when they get a breakthrough, they sabotage it to return to familiar pain. The only way to break the cycle is to break the mindset that created it, and that requires daily renewal, daily exposure to higher thoughts, daily subtraction of toxic beliefs. The mind must be fed like the body. You wouldn't expect to be physically strong by eating junk food every day. So why expect to be mentally strong while feeding your mind with gossip, negativity, and fear-based conversations? A renewed mind is intentional about what it consumes. It reads what lifts. It listens to what builds. It speaks what aligns with where it's going. This isn't motivation, it's mental nutrition. And without it, you fall right back into the defaults that were never designed for your destiny. One of the most powerful signs of a renewed mindset is the ability to see yourself differently, not based on where you've been, but based on where you're going. A person with an old mindset sees themselves through the lens of failure, shame, and past experiences. But a person with a renewed mind sees identity through the lens of vision and calling. They don't shrink to fit the past, they stretch to meet the future. They stop asking, who am I to do this, and start declaring, who am I not to? This shift doesn't happen by accident. It requires commitment. It requires consistency. You don't become successful and then change your mind. You change your mind, and success becomes the natural outcome. That's why renewal is not optional. It's foundational. It's what keeps you grounded when life shakes. It's what keeps you focused when distractions come, and it's what keeps you growing when comfort tries to pull you back. When your mindset is renewed, your energy changes, your posture changes, your expectations change, and as a result, your results begin to change too. Repetition is the tool that engraves belief into the subconscious. What you hear consistently, you begin to believe. What you believe, you eventually act on. What you act on, you begin to experience. And what you experience shapes your life. That's why transformation isn't a matter of having one powerful moment. It's about building powerful momentum. You don't renew your mind once. You don't speak your identity once. You don't cast vision once. You do it daily, intentionally, and relentlessly until what used to feel like a stretch becomes your standard. Repetition is not boring when it's connected to purpose. It's the process of installing success as a default setting. Most people underestimate how long it takes to rewire a belief system. They speak affirmations for 3 days and then quit because their world didn't shift overnight. But the mind is not changed by occasional inspiration. It's changed by constant immersion. You didn't learn fear in a day. You didn't learn lack in a week. You were exposed to it over and over until it felt natural. So don't expect to flip the script without applying the same principle in reverse. You have to overwhelm your current programming with new, higher truth. And the only way to do that is through consistent, focused repetition. Every time you speak your new identity, you weaken the hold of the old one. Every time you visualize the life you're building, you make it more familiar to your brain. The more familiar something becomes, the more acceptable it becomes. And once the mind accepts something as normal, it stops resisting it. That's the power of repetition. It removes the emotional resistance to change. At first, it feels fake. It feels awkward. It feels like you're lying to yourself, but if you stay with it long enough, the truth begins to feel more real than the lie you used to live in. This is the same principle used in every area of growth. Athletes repeat drills until they become second nature. Musicians repeat scales until their fingers move without thought. You don't rise to the level of your potential, you fall to the level of your preparation. Repetition is preparation. It's not just about knowing what to do, it's about becoming someone who does it without overthinking. The same applies to mindset, to speech, to vision. You must train your thoughts and words like an athlete trains their body. You don't just practice when you feel like it, you commit until it becomes automatic. Repetition also strengthens identity. When you repeatedly declare, I am disciplined, you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. When you say, I am a creator of value, you start looking for ways to solve problems and serve others. This is not self-deception, it's self-definition. You are giving your subconscious mind a new target. And once it has a new target, it starts filtering the world differently. It notices opportunities you used to overlook. It connects dots you never saw before. Your awareness increases not because the world changed, but because your perception changed through the power of repetition. The beauty of repetition is that it compounds. One day may not seem like much. 2 days might feel like nothing changed. But day after day, word after word, thought after thought, you're building a foundation so strong that nothing external can shake it. The same way a drop of water can carve through rock over time, your daily disciplines carve through limiting beliefs and shape a new identity. This is how transformation becomes permanent. You don't just change temporarily, you evolve. You grow into someone who no longer has to fight for success, because success becomes a natural expression of who you've become through daily repetition. Chasing success is exhausting because it puts you in a constant state of striving. You wake up already feeling behind, measuring your worth by how much you've accomplished, how far you've gotten, or how many people noticed. It becomes a race with no finish line where every win is quickly followed by the fear of losing it. That mindset creates anxiety, not abundance. The truth is, you weren't designed to chase, you were designed to attract. The person who attracts success is the one who embodies alignment. They become a magnet not because of what they do occasionally, but because of who they are consistently. Attraction starts with identity. When you become the kind of person who lives in purpose, who moves with clarity, who operates with integrity and boldness, you naturally begin to attract the relationships, resources, and opportunities that match that level. Success flows to who you are, not what you're trying to prove. People can feel authenticity. They can feel confidence that isn't forced. You don't have to convince anyone when you're in alignment with your assignment. You just have to show up and the right things begin to respond to your presence. Becoming the magnet means you stop operating from desperation and start operating from design. You're not chasing clients, you're creating value. You're not begging for approval, you're walking in purpose. That shift in energy is everything. It changes how you talk, how you carry yourself, how you make decisions. When you know who you are and where you're going, your presence speaks louder than your pitch. You no longer wait for doors to open. You recognize that your very identity is the key that unlocks them. Attraction is also rooted in clarity. If you're unclear on what you want, you'll keep running after things that don't fit. You'll say yes to what you should decline. You'll chase relationships, partnerships, and paths that drain you simply because you haven't taken the time to define what success actually looks like for you. But when you're clear, when you know the vision, the goal, the mission, you start attracting alignment. You recognize what belongs and what doesn't. You don't waste time trying to convince anyone of your worth. You're too focused on walking in it. Another powerful truth about being a magnet is that it works both ways. You don't just attract success, you also attract responsibility. When you level up internally, you begin to attract challenges that stretch your character, develop your leadership, and refine your focus. It's not something to fear, it's something to embrace. Magnets don't get to choose what metal they pull. They simply attract according to their strength. The stronger you become, the greater the pull. That's why inner growth must always match outer growth. If you don't grow inside, the weight of what you attract outside will break you. People often ask how to attract more favor, more opportunity, more wealth. The answer is simple, but it's not easy. You attract more by becoming more. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you want abundance, become generous. If you want leadership, become responsible. If you want influence, become trustworthy. The world is constantly responding to who you are being, and when who you are aligns with the level you're believing for, you don't have to chase. You just live, and what's meant for you will find you. Being a magnet also means letting go of the need to force outcomes. Forced success is fragile. It depends on conditions being perfect, people saying yes, and timing being right. But when you're a magnet, your results are based on internal alignment, not external approval. You trust the process because you trust who you've become. You're not moved by delay or rejection because your identity is anchored. You attract because you've cultivated consistency, clarity, and conviction. You walk into rooms knowing you belong, not because someone told you, but because you decided it.